Hello, everyone. I'm not going to speak really close to the mic. It sounds really powerful tonight. The way you guys did to it, maybe. Anyhow, good to see everyone. Welcome and happy holidays. So let's go ahead and get the City of North Plains City Council regular session meeting, Monday, December 19, 2022, started at 6:32. And please stand for pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. All right. So tonight we have 4 newly re-elected officials, Councilor Fage, Councilor Peepin, and Councilor Smith. And I'm going to turn this over to Lori to give the oath of office. So if Councilor Smith, Councilor Peepin, Councilor Fage could just stand in place. Office there, and then maybe later we can take some photos. Okay? Good. Lori? Did all 3 of you memorize the oath? Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I will read it in small sections and you guys just repeat back. Only where I say state your name, just state your individual names, please. Whoever you would like to have the oath apply to. Okay? I state your name.
I, Ricky Smith,
Trista Pinkman.
James Page,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the state of Oregon,
the state of Oregon,
and the Charter of the City of North Plains,
and the Charter of the City of North Plains,
all federal and state laws
all federal and state laws,
and ordinances of the City of North Plains,
and ordinances of the City of North Plains,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties as City Councilor
faithfully perform the duties of City Council
during my continuance therein, so help me God.
to my continuance therein, so help me God.
Congratulations, you're sworn in for 4 more years, and I will get all of you notarized and everything after the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
So I noticed that you, Councilor Paven, you have your family here. I'm not sure if they're going to stay through the whole meeting, but if it's something that maybe we need to do photos now, I definitely want to accommodate their schedule if they have to pop out. Are they popping out or staying? No way, we're gonna hang out for an hour. So we can take a few moments if you'd like to take a photo with mom. Yeah. Do you want to stand by the flag? Or, yeah, we can, absolutely, we can do that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and then,
We'll do it all together.
4 years, a long time, wait again.
right,
You can get it now.
right.
The flag moves. You can move the flag if you want.
Yeah, we can move the flag.
Long as we can get it, so then we're-
Right.
Yeah, we're not gonna light.
Just say, you might not want to be green.
The background.
Yeah, you probably don't want that. Okay, no. No messing around with flag.
Yeah, I'll come around.
Yep.
No.
It's not really a great.
You wanna stand over here?
You guys all want to come in?
Sure. It's great to have all 3 of us. You can see in the middle.
Okay, look at Terry.
Lori? Oh, I already took a couple while you guys were messing around. Very good. Okay.
This is my good side.
Okay. All right. God, what's my name? Come into the I know, they're used to having their picture taken. Okay. Okay, okay, thanks, man. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that unofficial business.
Yes, thank you.
Jake going with him.
I want the mayor too. Is that fair?
Sure.
I can picture you guys.
You want to do it after the person?
Yes.
Yeah.
My most important person here.
We've got the projector.
It's
on.
like, what? We have like the going.
Yeah,
You want to go over here more?
sunburn.
You have some writing on you. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Some, I got some. Okay.
I'll look at-
Thank you.
Oh. She's coming afterwards. She may have.
All right, awesome, congratulations. All right, roll call, please, Lori.
Mayor Linehan,
Here.
Counselor Page,
Here.
Counselor Kendall,
Are
Counselor Martinez,
Here.
Counselor Pippen,
Here.
Counselor Sheldon,
present.
Counselor Smith.
Here.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right, so our item number 6 on our agenda is the consent agenda. Approval of December 19, 2022 City Council regular session agenda. The approval of December 5th, 2022 City Council minutes. Resolution 2211, it's the four-way stop at North Avenue and Main Street. And then we have resolution 2212, the broadband users group amendment. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes that we need to be aware of? Hearing none. Any other comments or questions?
I move for the option.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just had a question on
Yeah.
resolution 2211. I don't think I read through it completely, but I did brush through that. I'm assuming that the city attorneys looked at it.
Is this the four-way stop?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's.
Okay. Okay.
Move for the
Yeah, sorry, I
option.
didn't put this in the Friday minutes, about these two items.
Can I have one question? Do we have a transition period with this four-way stop?
A transition period?
Yes. I guess they well, because when we put the one, they put the one on Jackson School Road and 26, they had kind of a warning for like a couple of weeks. So people don't have a pattern of just driving straight through and not realizing.
Oh, right. Yeah, part of the signage will be, forget the exact verbiage, but it'll say traffic change ahead or something like that. So we'll put that up for a few weeks and then follow that up with the stop sign.
That's
Yeah.
good.
And we might even do the same downtown too, whenever we get. But yeah, we're kind of waiting for this to get authorized, and then we're gonna group that work together, installing the signs.
I would again move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
all right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Public comment. This is the time that we wish anyone from the public to speak on items not on our agenda. And anyone in Jessie May is wishing to speak at this time? Let the record show that no one has come forth. Lori, anything in writing or on Zoom?
Nothing prior to the meeting, Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, staff night. So first up, Ms. Robin.
Good evening. I'm pleased to say that we did a preliminary count of our annual holiday craft fair for the library, and we have raised $750. It's not, we still have 1 week to go, so that's great news. And I was just gonna mention that something that wasn't in my report, that we're going back to monthly staff meetings in the library. We're resuming those next month for training and that sort of thing. Any, I can answer any questions about my report? Any questions?
I have a question on, it's budgetary related, and I'm certainly willing to ask you now, or I could certainly wait until the finance director's report. But I had a meeting today with the Mayors Plus One, meaning mayors plus the chair of the Board of Commission. And she was brought forth just their budgetary concerns and how that might impact the services, the shared services among the jurisdictions in Washington County. And one of my questions, I did not ask her straight away, but it's one that I will be thinking about, and I hope that, I'm sure that you are also thinking about and having a conversation about, but how their budget is going to impact WCCLS. And then that trickles down obviously to all the jurisdictions in the library and that sort of thing. So I'm assuming you've had these conversations and you're thinking ahead and what that might mean for us.
Sure. WCCLS is partly funded by the general fund of the county and also partly funded by the levy that the voters passed. They have asked the WCCLS manager along with other general fund managers to come up with a few different budget scenarios. They have a new CFO who's asking them to do that. But as far as any of the impacts trickling down to the individual member libraries, it's not expected, but we have to be prepared.
I think so, because I know that a good portion of your budget comes from them. And
Lisa's reached out to all of the directors, Lisa Tattersall, for ideas of how to streamline or economize within their department. So to help absorb any cuts they might need to make. And so we appreciated that, and we gave her some ideas.
okay. If there's anything that I can do, to help, or any kind of message that you want me, we can sit down and talk about this one-on-one if you'd like, whatever, but I'm happy to share, at that level with those meetings that I attend, because I'm sure that a lot of the mayors today didn't outwardly express it, but I'm sure it's in the back of their mind of thinking about their libraries, right?
Sure.
And how that's going to be impactful for their communities. And because, we have such a great system here, certainly want to make sure that we do whatever we can to preserve what we have.
Yeah, and the latest levy passed by, we rounded up to 69% because it was over 68.5%. Yes, yes votes from the citizens. So that really showed it. And that was in the middle of pandemic, I think, when we were closed, to the public. It just really shows how much the community values the library and our services. So, but thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely aware.
Yeah, good. Any other comments or questions for Robin? Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Chief Axon?
Looks like for November, there's no recurring trends, and looks like our public demand calls are right there in the means for November. But the officers are still being proactive. And there looks like there's continuing on with the overtime. There's 75 hours of overtime used in November. You can see the chart there. It covers all the months we've done so far. really all I have on this. Seems like it's a pretty slow month for reports in November, which is good.
Comments, questions? Counselor
Just
Smith?
one small one, just because it's Christmas time. Has there been any package thefts reported at all, or pirates or?
Oddly enough, I have not come across any reports of that. This is that time of year where there tends to be a lot of that, but it's been down. Honestly, I haven't come across one report of package theft.
Counselor Craig?
This might be a question more for Bill, but how much ballpark, how much are we spending when we're spending 75 hours for overtime coverage?
About 144 times 75 is what I guess.
I don't have the precise answer in front of me. I would have to dig up like last month's invoice from Washington County Sheriff's Office. But Counselor Sheldon's ballpark.
Give or take. Okay, so about
Brackets it, I would say.
$11,000.
That's about right.
Okay, because first of all, Chief, I think the world of you guys, and I just look at the numbers and statistics, and I see $11,000 just in overtime. There's no citations, there's not a lot happening. I know we're about to talk about a police levy potentially coming up. And then when I look at the month of November, and there was one citation issue for the entire month of November, and a total of 210, total activity, that's 7 a day. And then I think about what's a typical day look like for police coverage? How many hours would you say? 10, 12 for a typical day, not including overtime?
We're right in question. There's 10 plus my hours, a little bit of overlap there. So you're right at about 14 hours.
So 14 hours a day. And on average, there's seven incidents or reports or traffic stops that happen in a day. I guess I just want some visibility or some clarification on what is happening. Because I look at these numbers and I look at how much money we're spending for police coverage, overtime, and then I'm just not seeing that return on investment. And I love that, we don't have package thefts. We have a relatively low crime rate. I definitely see presence in the school zones. But on the same side, I just want to know what we have presence in the school zones, but just last week I saw someone running a stop sign at a roundabout in Sunset Ridge. Right after school let out, almost hit 2 kids. Friday, picked up my kid Sunset Ridge right on 292nd. Someone's leaving and they have a cell phone in their hand as they're driving, and there was, a deputy right there. So I love that we have the presence, but what's the action that's being taken? And I just want to, again, I don't know a day in your life, so I was hoping that you could provide a little bit more clarity on that and why these numbers are so low. Because I'm thinking about, most of us have metrics in our job that we have to hit. And if you're not hitting it, right, it's a conversation. I'm thinking about this, and we have one traffic stop or one citation for the entire month of November. I have a hard time wrapping my mind around how that's okay.
Well, first off, I'd like to say that it's very difficult to prove a negative in police work. So a lot of what we're doing is being visible. So I can't tell you what that's preventing, because honestly, I have no way of judging that. And there's a lot of times where citations are one metric, and that's not always, whether we're stopping cars, it doesn't necessarily mean that what we're seeing is citation worthy. I will stand by that. I believe the deputies will write a citation when it's warranted. So I can't tell you everything that they're stopping for, because I don't know what they're stopping the cars for. But I trust and feel that they're there and they're doing what they need to be doing. And again, I don't really have a good answer for what that metric is supposed to be. I don't think there's a solid answer for how many citations there should be. or how many stops there should be. Necessarily because again, a lot of what we're doing, whether it's spending quality time in the schools or being visible or spending time within the community, that's really what my understanding is what you were asking for. And it's not just stopping cars over. We can increase those numbers. And I'm a big fan of focusing the policing of North Plains in North Plains. We could absolutely go back to policing Highway 26 and writing citations on speeders on 26 up and down 26 here. But I do not.
That defeats the purpose of it.
Absolutely agree with you. I
That's the
want
state police.
everything within North Plains. I want the folks in North Plains to get their police in North Plains. And if that means, and it's unfortunate, there's one officer. So if I choose to be at commercial, right there at 311th or right here, I can't be at the roundabout. So I can't be everywhere at one time. And it's unfortunate that we're trying to space it out and be visible in different spots. And it just can't be there. At no point can be there 24 hours a day in those spots. So I know we're working through on what these should be. And it's especially hard. I know you don't see, we had these conversations, I believe, when we were first talking about the levy with after hours coverage. And I know it sounds like we're spending a lot of money for after hours coverage, but really what we're paying for is a peace of mind. And the fact that if someone calls, I know it's a little spotty right now because again, it's a stopgap. But we're really paying for when someone calls at night and they have an issue, we want that officer to be able to get there and not wait till the next day to have it be reported. That's really what we're in essence paying for, is for the security and the safety. And I don't know how to put that in numbers, because I can also tell you at night, in the daytime, in the morning, there's not a lot. I know the mayor was talking about earlier, there's not a lot what you see as speeders. I'm guessing the speeders are more in the afternoon and in the evenings. And I know they're there, but I know when I'm sitting there, there's not as many. And I know that the time that we spent on North has really slowed traffic down on North. There's not nearly what there used to be. So I know the presence is working. So it's getting harder and harder to find reasons to pull people over for speeding, so to speak. And I know we're sitting on the stop sign. So I'm hoping that in essence, the more work we do and the more people realize we're here, the less stops you're going to get. That's the theory, and the safer it becomes. So again, it's really hard I can't swear by it that it's working. I can tell you, I know it's working on North, the time that we're spending. I think putting in that four-way stop is gonna slow people down. I also think that with Andy's talk, with us putting in the digital radar signs, there's certain things that we're doing as a city that's gonna make us even safer and give us less reason to pull people over. So I do think we're doing a good job, and I think it's a peace of mind, and it's the ability that when they call that we're going to be there. I know it's really hard right now because it's hit and miss on whether we have nighttime coverage versus literally having someone here every night. I know we're still getting benefits from the county coming over to a bar fight that we just had at one of the nearby bars that we have. And that's because we don't have someone working to be able to do that. So I appreciate your support. I can't give you an exact, it's a long way of talking about it. I can't give you an exact number why there's only one citation. I issue them when they're warranted. I think they're justified. And I think the officers do the same thing. So there are a lot of traffic stops. And again, these are all, the vast majority, and I'm going to say the vast majority are actually in North Plains, with people actually coming in North Plains. So I think that's what the policing needs to be. That's really what you're paying for, is mostly us being available here in North Plains. So I would like to say that we can work on writing more tickets, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not here to write a bunch of tickets. I'm here to talk to the people and stop them and ensure that they're being compliant within the law and getting the compliance.
And I appreciate that, and I know there is no no one size fits all approach for something like this. I think it's just, I'm looking at this purely from a numbers perspective, and those citations are what helps your budget, right? That's how the city helps generate revenue for our police department. That's one of our largest chunks of the budget. And so I appreciate that proactive approach, but I also question, how are we gonna pay for these things, right? Like, I think a lot of other police departments would love to let people get off with warnings. I know that's a very discretionary thing with the deputy and the scenario and the circumstance behind it. But then I also see, I saw a perfect example again during school pickup. I saw someone who Deputy Conway had pulled over. On my head, I'm like, yes, thank you, thank you. And then again, I saw the other day, it almost hit a child in the same roundabout that they had blown a stop sign through. And so that's my, that was one thing that's coming to my mind, is that we're giving a lot of warnings, but then where's the bite behind the warning, right? If I'm speeding, I'm not perfect, I speed. I would expect to probably get a speeding ticket, and I would love to get a warning, but also that's the consequence. And that is how we pay for some of the services in the city. So I don't want to get hung up on numbers purely, but I just have seen this trend for a really long time, and I just wanted to bring it up for discussion. So thank you.
Well, I guess the only counter I have to that is I should look at the numbers past and see what revenue we're actually getting because of the contract with the citations, the percentage we're getting. I really feel like we're gonna have to write a lot of citations in order to gain the revenue. In essence, we'll never pay for our services through citations.
No. never will.
And on top of that, I would argue that a lot of the residents we're pulling over are residents of North Plains. And I also don't want to bite the hand that feeds us. I really believe that the conversations that we have with the residents that we pull over, because they're not all going to the golf course from other places. Believe it or not, there are a lot of the residents we pull over, and those honest conversations that we're able to have with them, I think go a lot farther than issuing a citation. And so if I never wrote a citation, I would not be upset about that, because I'm having those meaningful conversations and actually talking to the folks and having that conversation about how wonderful North Plains is, and the fact that this is a city that walks, and that there's people out, and having them understand why the rules are the way and why we're enforcing it. And if they can pass that on to their neighbors and to the folks within the city, I think that does us a much bigger benefit than the small percentage we get after the justice courts and after everyone else gets that revenue. So to me, that's the bigger bang for the buck, not necessarily the money from the citations. And I think that's, in my opinion, that's the better policing that we're getting, and that is really what the community policing is about.
Councilor Page?
I think, I'm not sure exactly how much you get for the tickets. I think it's only like $10 for 10 smoke clears. So I don't see it as a revenue loss. When I look at the police action, I look at the self-initiated as the major indicator as far as performance goes. But that $10,800 overtime they're spending. If we get a little bit of a nuance, I know you may not be prepared for it now, but maybe next time. How many stops are we getting at night? I want to know what kind of impact the nights have. And as far as, I don't look at citations at all as an indicator as far as predictability goes. I would much rather personally that you guys give warnings if it's nerdy, we got it a couple times, that's absolutely right. But I'm not looking at citation. I'm not asking you to make more citations. The self-initiated is what is indicated of that. And just trying to figure out how many that 75 hours at night is actually generating. And I know it's not going to be consistent, but is it impactful? Are we getting better major crimes from the outside or something? That's kind of important.
The self-nation for November, it's funny, the city manager asked me to look at that specifically. So it's relatively close. I couldn't give you the exact numbers. Obviously, there's 11 of them in November. 3 or 4 or 5 of those are going to be traffic stops. Several are suspicious vehicles, people going out with vehicles that just in neighborhoods, whether there be illegally parked vehicles or something that stands out. And then there were some with like an individual. So they're just not, Roy Plains is a fairly quiet town, especially at night and especially in the wintertime. So that's really what they're going out with. I can absolutely give you a more breakdown in the South Nation of what exactly it is that they're doing per se within categories, if you'd like, and that's very doable.
Thank you. I like that.
Just want to hold my last comment that I agree with Jim, but not writing tickets is not what it's about. It's being there if we need you, or if somebody picks up the phone and they need help. We save one life, it's worth every penny. So I want to end it at that.
And I just want to add in there, it's not purely about the number of tickets. I think it's more so what is happening during the day and where is that return on investment. So looking at 210, that's an average of seven incidents happening in a day on average. And when I'm seeing things just, 200 feet from a park deputy, I just want to know, are we parking a car there for visibility, which is great. I love the visibility. Or are we actually doing something with that parked car? Is the deputy looking around, being mindful of their surroundings? Because again, school zone, texting and driving, literally right at the stop sign after they pass the deputy. And then again, someone who I know got pulled over and is doing the same behavior again. And so I want to make sure that we're really getting the best thing for our buck and, trying to bring those numbers up. So thank you for listening.
Any other comments or questions for Chief Haxon? Councilor Pavin, thank you for bringing that, and thank you for having the dialogue. Chief, really appreciate it. Hope the feedback is helpful for you.
Thank you.
Next up, the Community Development Monthly Report. I know Steve's not with us this evening. Andy, is there anything you'd like to highlight?
Steve himself has had a bit of an issue. Nothing health related, but yeah, something that kind of kept him away from tonight. Really, the big thing from the community development report, it's all there. Far West did submit their application 2 weeks ago, so he's going through all the paperwork and the completeness review on that. So there's a few items missing in there. It's probably the biggest land use application we've ever gotten on a piece of property other than Bryn Hill. So it's taken a while to get through that, but that was received, and then we'll start digging into a lot of that, go through the traffic report. And that might have a land use hearing in March. It's kind of looking like. Other than that, there's kind of all the other nuts and bolts from there.
There was a Ghost Creek Boardwalk neighborhood meeting on December 14th. Was there any feedback that you could share from the neighborhood, from people?
No,
No one showed up or?
no, there was no feedback.
No?
Yeah.
Okay,
We did the back-to-back, that one and the Public Works Building neighborhood meeting at the same time. There was one person in attendance there. Steve handled that.
okay. Any other comments or questions about that report? Councilor Shelby?
I had a question. I don't see it here now. I looked at this a couple days ago, so I was believing that I saw a paragraph about an action that was going to come before the council, that they're appealing a decision of the planning commission, and I can't really put my finger on it right now, but I'm just wondering what that's about, and maybe it's not the time to go into detail, but I don't have a lot of patience with those folks at Bryn Hill, I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, that's the last page. That is there's an application for mixed use area at Main and North. The planning commission issued a decision, and the applicant is that's really based on the commercial square footage requirement. That will be to the council sometime in January.
So I'm assuming that we'll have something prior to that to obviously look at in terms of if we're going to decide whether or not we, in other words, support the planning commission, overturn the planning commission decision.
Right, right. Steve and I sort of discussed that about how we can get you that information without making it sort of any sort of ex parte
Right.
conflict or, any sort of favored or undisclosed information prior to the meeting. So we've kind of discussed that, but that's the gist of it. I can't remember who the city council was that was out that. That would have been.
I think it might have been later, I think.
You, Councilor,
Because I think in conversation, I think when this, I think it was about this, but, the planning commission would no doubt be in the, behind us here, correct? So they can come to the meeting, correct?
I was on the planning commission when we decided this. I was on the committee.
Oh,
planning commission
Who
when we
was,
decided.
who was, well, I think first, who was the
Who was
ex
the
parte for that particular planning?
Who was the ex officio?
Who was the ex officio? Thank you for that particular.
Yeah, that's what I was
Planning
wondering. It might have been Councilor Kendall.
I think,
But-
I believe it was.
Yeah, this particular application is, so Lennar is selling that portion of the project to the developer in the mixed use. So they came in with a design review application for, commercial on the bottom, apartments on the top. Whole square footage of commercial, 48 to 54 units on top, kind of what that configuration is.
So apparently this new developer is taking issue with the existing, and then they're appealing that PC decision to the city council then in January. To want
Yes.
to change it to what they think it should be.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm trying to.
So in
build
effect,
narrative,
they
Right?
were denied by the planning commission.
Yeah,
This
there's,
is a recent decision by the planning commission.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this was an
That's-
application from Harbor.
And I think that once you figure out what you can share with us, maybe you could also make sure that we understand, like, some of us might want to do some homework and go back to that planning commission meeting. Like, what are our boundaries? What
Well, anything in the
Can-
public domain, so certainly any of the staff report from that night, the application from that
Okay.
night. Lori takes
The
very good
recording-
minutes
The
and the
recording from
recording.
the meeting.
Okay.
If people want to do a recording, that thing was probably an hour long, but the minutes summarize everything.
Okay.
Any of those materials for sure, and, we could probably even package that stuff together to make it easy for folks.
Okay.
Yeah,
As long as we kind of know what our boundaries are,
Right.
know?
I hesitate to,
Was that the
Right.
October or the November?
I'm thinking.
October?
Okay,
I show Ricky was the.
you can circle back around.
Yeah,
It's
I'll have to
totally
look
fine.
back.
That's
Yeah.
right. It was October. It was Steve's first meeting that we did.
Oh,
The EOA, this mixed use, marijuana, psilocybin, short-term rentals.
That was a
all that.
marathon.
Yeah, yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay, all right. So just circle back with us, let us know what we can do, what our boundaries are, just so that we're in compliance. That'd be great.
One question. Is this something we're gonna need an attorney to look at too while we're at it, like the last one? Was there some logistics about it, legal? Or is it something we don't?
I don't think so. Really, the heart of the matter is, well, if we want to segue into a finance report, because it's 7:10, but Bill did some of the staff report for it. It's really about the commercial space requirement and commercial space that could be carried and suitable at that area, so in some sense, it's sort of a market.
I don't want to get too much into the
Discussion, yeah.
weeds of it. I mean,
Okay, I don't think we'll need an attorney.
Okay.
okay. Because we will eventually get into the weeds, but
Yes.
yeah, okay,
There will be weeds.
yeah. All right. Finance, Bill,
All right, now the
the numbers. Thank you, everyone. I think if you'll indulge me in the interest of time, I'm gonna do my best to really just hit the highlights of the report. I know you all kind of are hawkish about different things you are careful about or are particularly interested in. So, but let me hit the highlights. Not a ton, generally speaking, for the general fund. Happened, changed differently during the month of November. I will say that we continue to plan to bring a supplemental budget to you in January to discuss that and bring that to you for consideration. And in the general fund, of all of the different categories of expense that we're watching to potentially specifically require a supplemental budget with the materials and services in the community development department, largely because of ongoing UGB expense, UGB planning and issues expense. That's the one that continued. Nothing's over budget yet, but that's the one that is on pace to potentially require a supplemental, specifically in the general fund. So just noting that we're continuing to kind of watch that and see where it goes. The streets fund, the highlight for the month really was that November businesses paid their new tough rate with the new methodology that was adopted. And we've to date only gotten 4 businesses asked to clarify the new higher fee for them. And we've done that in detail. And answers apparently have been satisfactory. So there's been no like re-feedback, irritation or that sort of thing. So that's been a fairly straightforward process. But anyway, monthly tough revenues went up to 14,500 for the month of November, whereas July 1 through November was about 9,700. So it's a nice bump in contribution to revenue need for street sidewalks, street lights, the intent of the tough. So that's so far been a fairly bump-less implementation process on the business side. The water fund, November had pretty November-y weather, but the summer months really set the fund up well for higher than expected revenue for longer, warmer weather. So the water fund is doing well, and we're kind of in the low usage months, and that's a positive thing. Really, as far as the water accounts go, being overdue, we kind of had a weird bump in overdue accounts from the different homeowners associations, and then a bunch of unbuilt or unoccupied Bryn Hill lots. And for whatever reason, those combined ended up meaning about a little, almost $15,000 in overdue, 30 days or more overdue accounts, just kind of those account holders. Past couple of weeks, about half of that has been paid down, but we're going to be reaching out to them to see what's going on. As far as regular residents, non-home builder accounts, non-HOA accounts, overdue balance activity was about like it was the prior month, the previous months. Normal, nothing outstanding or too crazy. So I don't know what's going on with the HOAs, but we'll reach out and find out. That's just kind of been a weird 2-month pattern now where the HOAs specifically have been overdue on their accounts and don't know what's going on. This was the first time Bryn Hill lots had an issue. So we'll check into that as well. Otherwise, regular residents accounts were normal. As far as everything else, the finance department, Bryn Hill kind of paused with building permit activity during the month of November. Maybe they'll pick back up in January. Maybe it's kind of a seasonal pause. We don't know. I do have a friend actually over in the sales department for Lennar. I asked him what's going on. Is it a temporary or some kind of market thing? He said, no. Bryn Hill is one of the few Lennar communities that hasn't had to go through a significant pricing change because of inflation and market and all that. It's actually one of the Lennar's better performers. So I don't think I think it's going to be a temporary seasonal pause in construction. I don't think we have anything to worry about in terms of, pace of activity or if there's anything worrisome on the horizon. I guess the only other thing I would point out is property tax receipts. We're currently up 1% over last year. We expect things to, that's kind of on the almost last page. Property tax receipts to date are at about $678,000. Last year in full, we brought in $684,000 in property tax revenue, so we're almost to where we are last year. We expect the revenues will be about 3, 4, maybe 5% higher than they were last year. So we're right on target regarding where we projected for budget and how we've budgeted for expenditures. So property taxes are kind of coming in where we thought they would. Couple more weeks of intake of revenues by the county, but the vast majority of it's already, I would say. Anything else? Stand for questions. Oh, just for context, annual citation revenue for law enforcement, $40,000. Property tax, franchise fees, other unrestricted revenues for law enforcement, $675,000. So that's the split.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Any questions or comments for Bill?
It's
Counselor
just a
Smith?
quick one. Because the property taxes you're talking about with the new housing coming in, do we know how many new houses more this year than last year? So you said you do that with the water bills. You don't need to give it to us now.
Yeah. I'm actually at Bailey working on a report. It's a surprisingly difficult report to run with our accounting software because it kind of boils down to checking for certain types of new water accounts. So I'm working with her on kind of running a systematic report every month, but we're not there yet. What I can say is my recollection is we probably have 20 or 25 occupied homes in Brent Hill. That's sold, people moved in, happily living. That's not sold, waiting for move-in. That's not under construction. That's actually occupied homes. So I would say we're probably at least 20, right now, at least 20 homes occupied at Brent Hill.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right. Number 9A, our public hearing. Lori, do you have anything that you have to read? Okay.
The North Plains City Council will conduct a public hearing on the exemption from competitive bidding for a public improvement pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute 279C.335. The order of business will be as follows. The mayor will open the public hearing and ask for declarations of conflict of interest, ex parte contact, or personal bias. The mayor will request the staff report and findings. The councilors may ask questions at any time during the public hearing. Any written correspondence submitted on behalf of the subject exemption will be orally presented, including the individual's name and address. The public will be invited to provide oral and written testimony on the proposed exemption, first by proponents, then opponents, followed by those individuals who are neutral. Additional staff comments will then be presented. The mayor will call for council comments and discussion. The mayor will close the public hearing or continue the hearing to a specific date and time. If the mayor closes the public hearing, a decision will then be made by city council. The decision and findings will then be adopted by city council via a resolution.
Thank you, Lori. At this time, I'll open up our public hearing at 7:20. And Andy.
Okay, thanks, Madam Mayor. I will keep this brief. This is an approach we talked about last meeting with Jason from Process Architecture was with this, going over the some of the schematic design for the building, which, by the way, I just talked to him on Friday. He was pleased with the comments the folks had. And we're take those into the construction phase. But this approach for bidding a CMGC, construction manager, general contractor, this is one we touched on a little bit, and it's kind of a novel approach for North Plains, but it's one that's getting used more and more in other agencies. And really, what it boils down to, this is what I put in the email, the memo on Friday, and this is what you'll see here in the findings that we worked with the city attorney on. This is an approach that you involve a contractor that's going to do the work earlier in the process. So in this time of when it's harder to get materials, harder to get labor, you're trying to avoid change orders, when you're working with sort of a material that's a little bit more specialized, like mass timber, all of those things, you bring them earlier in the process and they can be part of the design phase. It's a little similar to a design build, that goes a little bit even further than that by bringing on a contractor earlier in the pre-construction phases. The way we feel that this is the way to go with our project, it's not super complicated. It's just a site plan and a building. It's not involving a lot of other public improvements, multiple buildings. And then it really tries to, I guess, head off in the past some of those issues that we were talking about earlier with inflation. And, we've seen it here in Just Maze, doing our best to order materials early in the process, and still you're running into 2-3 month delays. I know that CMGC has been used in basically all the larger agencies in Washington County with good effect. And then even smaller ones like Wood Village, they built a city hall 2 years ago. They used CMGC. They found that was a really good process. And it's what we've always done in North Plains is a design, bid, build. We'll design it and then build out the construction, or bid out the construction piece and then build it. So this is just kind of condensing some of those steps, and it'll be help the project move along quicker as well too. So in order to do that, we have to have this resolution that makes it sound like we're exempting an RFP status, but we still have to go through that. We're still going to do an RFP for the GCs and the construction companies, and we'll still hold interviews and all that stuff. This is just to go through with this particular approach. This is what the state ORS rules require. Questions? I have answered.
Council, any questions?
I appreciate the novel way of looking at the GC contract approach. Efficiency saves money. However, I'm very curious because all of our projects in the past have been the highest range, so it's been 3% more. So I'm very curious of how this is going to work out, whether it's $55 to $6 million, still a 2% range. But because it was $7 million, I was like, that's the same thing. So I'm glad we're trying a different approach. I like innovation, and this seems to be it.
Any other comments or questions? Sean?
I'll support it. This resolution. Normally, I wouldn't be supportive of any kind of a clause that eliminates competitiveness in any public projects, but it's probably in our best interest that can be further done in the selection of the actual general contractor. So I think there is efficiency built into it. It's not the most efficient. It sounds the greatest. Everybody in government loves it because it makes their life easier. And I understand that. So hopefully we can benefit from those efficiencies and go forward. I think for a project like this, I think we're on the right track. And there's plenty of good general contractors that we'll get to choose from. So I'll support it.
Any other questions?
Yes. Yeah, the page 31, the top. The city will utilize the Oregon State Lottery Bond and Water Transportation Parks SDCs. Are those city SDCs and the water and the lottery money?
Yeah, the lottery bond is a grant that we got from the state.
How much is that? Just by asking.
5 million.
How many? 5 million. So 2 million will come back from the city. SDC.
Well, my goal is no, less than that.
Good. All right.
But 5 million for this project.
Okay.
That's going to be the vast majority. I
Okay,
mean,
thank you.
what I mentioned before is one of the complications is that site has the same soils that water tank did, but we're hoping the mitigation for that is far less. So, yeah,
8 million pounds of water, so that's fine.
exactly, yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I'll close our public hearing then at 7:27. And
Andy, if you could just direct now, I know that there's no motion or anything within our packet, but the next step then would be to call for a motion on this.
Yeah, sorry, I
Okay.
didn't put that in there. Simple resolution.
Okay. All right.
I'll move to approve resolution number 2213, a resolution of the City of North Plains, Oregon, City Council adopting findings to support an exemption from competitive bidding requirements for construction of the North Plains Public Works Facility, declaring such exemption and authorizing a process to award a construction manager general contractor, CMGC contract.
Well said, I'll second.
Is that a second?
Yes, second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Next item, our city manager reports. Does anyone have any questions for Andy regarding his report? Got off easy. Thank you, by the way, your Friday, reports are pretty comprehensive and detailed, and so they're still very, very much appreciated. Thank you. All right, any council reports at this time? And I know Lori put out the 2023 January, or the calendar. If there are any questions or alterations that need to be made, please see Lori directly, and we can always discuss finding a person to fill in your spot. So other than that, any other business? All right, I'll go ahead and close the city council meeting at 7:29. Thank you.